Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have you ever noticed that around this season of autumn, or for those of you who live across the pond, the fall, that our routines tend to break and they tend to be vastly different from the summertime? And, suddenly the kids have gone back to school, life speeds up, it's getting cold, and these habits change. I'm Aisha, and I help Muslimas succeed without overwhelm and help you build routines that actually go with your life rather than against it. In today's video, we'll talk about why routines break and how we can reset them with intention without feeling guilt or burnout. Inshallah. Before we begin, don't forget to download my free printable planner on www.cupofparenting.com/planner. Let's get started. So, first of all, why do routines tend to break around this time of the year? The first reason is because of the obvious seasonal shifts. Where we are in the UK, it's heading towards the darker nights now. All the salah times change as well. The days are shorter and the nights are longer. And anywhere in the world where you may live, it might be that you get different seasons and different changes in the different seasons, which means that your body changes as well, whether you notice this or not. This is because the weather does actually affect your energy levels, and so there is that real shift that happens. Another reason is that after the summer holidays, after you get into routines, what tends to sometimes happen is that you overcommit. You go into the new academic years because it's not the beginning of the calendar year, but it might be the beginning of a new school year, for example, in the UK. So it might be that you've signed yourself up or your children up to lots of extra activities because you might have thought that you had wanted to do things from the last academic year, things that were pending. So these could be sports activities, any extracurricular activities. Maybe if they go to masjid or madrasa separately to their school education, you've signed them up to that. So it might be that you wanted to do things, but now you've overcommitted to how many things that you can realistically do in your life. So these kind of extra activities that weren't there before can also create an overwhelm in your life and can disrupt your routine and create a bit of chaos if it's not sort of planned and managed properly. With also the start of this particular season, when children have gone back to school, you might be dealing with differences in children's emotions. So it might be that you've got little ones that have gone into school for the very first time. It might be that you've got little ones that have gone into nursery or kindergarten for the first time. And because of these routines, then there might be a different routine in your house as well. And it could be that you're actually dealing with emotional adjustment. And that is both true for the parents and for the child, that you're both having to make these adjustments in your life. Another key reason is the mental load and fatigue that goes with these new routines and new changes that are happening. So, again, as a parent that's responsible for children, subhanAllah, or even if you yourself are a student going back to university, it might be that you've got all these new classes going on. So, your body maybe in the summer period was a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more carefree. Maybe you even went on holiday and vacation. And now you are back in sort of work mode. So you're in a different mindset, and your body's just like continuously working, coming back, commuting, getting on with the housework, getting on with the cooking, those kind of things. So, you're really, really tired, and this could lead to mental exhaustion. It could lead to fatigue and burnout as well. Okay, so if this has happened to you, how do we set our routine and make sure that it's effective and suits our lifestyle? The first thing we can do is just pick one routine first to re-establish. So, subhanAllah, this could be your morning routine, your breakfast routine, or it could be your night routine, whatever's easier for you. And have a mini reset method. So, if it's a morning routine, for example, wake up 10 minutes earlier. And the reason why it's important to just tackle one routine at a time is because you don't want to then overwhelm yourself by saying, I'm going to create this completely new routine and this new lifestyle. It's not realistic or achievable. So you need to tackle it like one thing at a time or one habit at a time. So if you start with the morning routine, decide, first of all, how do you want your morning routine to look like? So that's going to be different for everybody, whether you've got a family or you haven't got a family. And what are the key things you want to be able to do when you wake up? So, for example, you want to be able to offer your salah, you want to have some time for adhkar. You hopefully want to factor in that, breakfast is a super important meal and you don't want to be skipping that just because you've woken up late. Or if you do have breakfast, that you have the time to have a healthy breakfast, inshallah, and you're not just grabbing the quickest, easiest processed foods that we're sometimes guilty of doing. Maybe If it's your lunchtime routine, you're thinking about prepping things the night before or anything that you can prep the night before, what can you do to make that morning routine or your lunchtime routine easier, whichever it is that you've picked. Make sure that you schedule family checks weekly. So, what this means is say that you've reset your morning routine, make sure every week you check that it's worked for you. If you're married, it's worked for your spouse. If you've got children, it's worked for them. And if it hasn't, why hasn't it? Or if it can be even more effective, how can it be more effective? So, for example, um, in our house, we try and do the du'as with the children as much as we can at those specific times. So they're waking up du'a as soon as they wake up. They're going to sleep du'a when they go to sleep, before they have their food, the eating du'a. But what we first did is, because obviously some of them are quite little and they're toddlers, is we put the du'as up on the wall in the kitchen, because obviously that's where they usually eat. So they could see the du'a and they could see the translation of what they're reading. And then by seeing the sort of writing, even though they couldn't even all read at that age. Some of them could, some of them couldn't. It was just a reminder that they need to read the dua before they start eating. And then this became a really good habit that now it's just second nature to them, alhamdulillah. So even though they're quite young, they will all read it. Even the baby who, he can't fully grasp it, still attempts to read as much as they can as well. So just little things like this that you can sort of think about, where can I make the routine more calm and more effective, and incorporate as much as Islam as I can into my way of life, inshallah. Another one is to anchor routines into existing habits. Now, I've talked about this before, and this is a really good and effective tip that you can do. So, what this means is, say that you want to add something to your routine that you don't normally do. So, for example, you don't normally do adhkar every day, but you do want to start doing it. A good way you can do it is add it to a routine you already do. So, maybe you already do pray your Fajr Salah. After your Fajr Salah, say, I'm going to use that sort of time when I'm already doing something, a habit, and I'm going to sit down and just going to take 2 minutes literally to read some adhkar. If you feel like I don't have a huge amount of time, I need to get out of the house by a certain time, or see to the children by a certain time, or tend to the baby. But just give yourself a couple of minutes, because then at least that's realistic. And you also know what time it's going to happen. And wherever you pray in the house, just put a supplication book, a dua book, so that it's easy for you to then, after you've offered your salah, pick up the dua book if you need to and read the duas at that time. So that's a way in which you can sort of anchor your routines to your existing habits, inshallah. Another tip is to try and be flexible, inshallah, and compassionate with your own self. So don't be harsh on yourself, and be happy with little achievements, inshallah, because it's these little achievements that allow us to make bigger achievements and allow us to be successful by being consistent. That at least you're saying, at least I'm doing this thing, but I'm doing it consistently, inshallah. So don't make it stressful for yourself, and be pleased with the small blocks of progress that you will be having if you stick to it, inshallah. Another tip is to plan for obstacles. Not every single day is your ideal routine going to happen, whether that's your morning routine, your afternoon routine, or your night routine. There are going to be days, obviously, when you might be hit by illness, or you might be hit by something else, any other issues that happen in your life. So when things like this might happen, have backup strategies, or if your day changes because of this, don't let it throw you off, inshallah, because as humans, actually, we do thrive on routines. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the night and the day, so that we can work, we can do ibadah, but we can also have some rest to reset. But if something happens and you don't get to do these, or you don't get to do them in a particular order, and it messes up with your mind or your body that day, it's okay. Give yourself a couple of days and then get back into it, inshallah. Okay, so on reflection, then, use this season as a time to reset your routine by checking what your habits are, your children's habits, your family's habits, and what you want them to be, inshallah. Make sure you make dua for consistency, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you the energy to be able to change routine and to be able to have barakah in your life, inshallah. And reflect on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy that He's giving the opportunity for you to be able to reset your routine, and give yourself time if you need to. It's always good to go in there open-minded and say, it might not work exactly the way I want it to, but at least I'm going to say Bismillah, I have good intentions. I'm going to put my tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I'm going to try, inshallah. So, by resetting with intention, flexibility, and small steps can keep you consistent in the long term. Small reset leads to big changes if you stay consistent, inshallah. So, start today to change your routine to make it the routine you wanted to, inshallah. If you enjoyed this video, why not watch my next video on how you can be balancing your responsibilities, inshallah. Until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.